Hi there, my name is Louis Taylor and I'm a composer based in Bristol. Today I'm going to be doing another video about adaptive video game music. Today's video I'm going to be jumping into FMOD and looking at how we went about preparing a piece of music for audio implementation that I wrote for a video game called Adapt. I actually did a breakdown of this piece of music compositionally in Logic Pro in a previous video, which I'm going to link in the description and at the end of the video. So you should check that out if you haven't seen that one yet before you watch this one. But in this one I'm going to look at FMOD, look at the different sections that I've got composed and try and tell you how we prepared it for some implementation. So let's jump straight into FMOD. So as you can see here, just like in Logic Pro in the last video, I've got these 6 different sections with really a body of 4 main sections, 4 or 5. And basically we've got an intro, one loop, a second loop, and then a swell, which is kind of prepared by a transition, and an ambient looping section after that, which kind of helps transition back to all the other sections. So as you can see now, we're dealing with audio files and no longer MIDI. In the last video I explained about how our base layer system worked. So we have 4 base layers in this one. Usually we would have 8 because that's based on whether or not we have the full amount of seasons, but since this is the Arctic, we only really have 2 seasons, the summer and the winter, and that is then split up into day and night per season. So I can just show you a quick difference. Let's go to loop 2, for example. I can show you how they differ. So this is the summer daytime bass layer. So there's marimba, percussion, some winds, a bit of bass in there, pizzicato bass. And then Celeste comes in here. So I'll just let that kind of play that, and then we'll move on to the summer night. So as you can see, it's actually very similar. But the way that the strings are playing in there varies a little bit more. So it's very similar to the summer day and night because I didn't want there to be too much difference between the two because I really wanted the difference to stand out between the loops. And you can actually hear there's more of a difference in the other bass layers in the different looping sections. But with the winter, you can really hear the difference. So let's just go to the winter daytime now. So I've basically just completely dropped the marimba and the strings except for the bass. Kept the Celeste though because, well, I basically only kept the Celeste for the daytime because I wanted it to still have a certain aspect of clarity. And I've added in some thicker woodwinds there, some thicker, more dense, lower woodwinds. So, if we go back here and then play the winter night, again, very similar to start with, but you'll see there's a huge difference coming up. So that's the most different one so far. We've got some kind of spectral scrubs that are being played on a nickel harbour there, and the pizzicato cello and a pizzicato bass. The pizzicato cello is essentially playing what the Celeste was playing before. So I wanted it to be even softer. So that's how they vary basically, and still playing. So that is basically how we went about varying them. And then as you can see here above that, we have the different kind of variations of layers upon these bass layers. So we've got additional strings, which only kind of happens in this ambient loop here, additional winds, melody 3, 2, and 1. I don't know why I did it in the reverse order, but I did. So if I just, for example, play to you Summer Day, I suppose that's the only problem I don't like about FMOD. You can't solo stuff in a group like you can in Logic. Wait, maybe you can. I've just worked out how you can. You can click on Shift and press them together. Pretty simple. So this is the melody 3. It's a very ambient melody, but it's actually playing a melody from a previous track, kind of development in that, of that. So let's just... But then if we wanted this to drop out, these can switch independently. Obviously it would be a lot smoother than that in the game. What you would have to do is set it up so that there was a parameter that every time it looped, there was a 50% chance of this one playing and a 50% chance of this one playing. And it wouldn't matter if they played at the same time, but most of the time they would play kind of, like a one to the other, basically. So that's a nice way of varying things. If you split the layers, you could split them up even more than this. I could have basically taken all the percussion out of this bass layer and had it on another level, for example. But I wanted that to be a locked parameter within the bass layers, which is why I didn't. And obviously in loop 2, you can see here that there's only one additional layer that I wanted to keep in there, just because it doesn't need any more than that. It's a simple section. But the swell has a bunch of different layers here, just like the first loop. And there's 3 different melodies that are even more varied, I would say, and distinct. And then you've got these extra woodwinds with horns as well. And the cello, a flute melody which is doubling the main melody on the trumpet. So, you get the idea, basically. We've got different varying layers up on the bass layers. Now, one thing that's important to work out as you're going around all of this is thinking about the different fades and how each audio file is going to react when you loop it. So as you can see here, the natural tail of the audio comes off after the end of the loop. So what I've done here for a lot of these kind of melodies that end right at the end is I've put these little fades in here so that when it loops, it's not just like a cut off or a jarring stop. It smoothly ends and goes back. So I've done that to some of the bass layers at the end of the bass layers here too. But the problem is with that, I find, is that you still get a bit of a cut feeling. You still get this kind of jarring feeling. So there's a way around it that I like to do. Now, this doesn't always work because it depends on how much reverb you've already applied. But basically, adding reverb is a great way to help smoothen the loop. So what we can do here, as you can see, this is a simple, in fact, let's use a bass layer. We're using the summer bass layer here. As you can see, there's kind of this automation of reverb level. So there's more reverb where it's higher up, basically. And what I'm basically doing here is increasing the volume of the wet send. And what that basically means is, if you don't know, the way reverb works is that you have, we can see actually, if we just click on this, we have the wet level and a dry level. Now the dry level is like a dry signal, basically. It's just, if I turn the wet level all the way down, we can hear actually. So that is just the file playing there. There's no effects on it whatsoever, just the dry level, if you see. Now if I do that again, it now has a slight amount of reverb that I added to that on top of it. But when I go here, you can kind of hear that tail going like that at the end of it. But the tail gets quieter around here, much quieter. So the idea is behind this is that I didn't want to add too much reverb to these tracks because I've already got my own reverb on there. But if you turn the wet level up significantly at the beginning and the end of the loop, it will really help smoothen things out going from one loop to the next, basically, and it will give it that kind of I mean, really, you should have them all at the same so that they sound even smoother, but it doesn't really matter that much. You can't really hear it. So a great way of doing that is automating the reverb. So how you would do that in FMOD is basically like this. If I wanted to, so you click on this, you click add modulation, and normally it would just say, actually I'm not sure why it's doing that. Let's see here. You just click add modulation like that, basically. Oh, I beg your pardon. It's because I've already got automation. It's not modulation. So you would click, if I wanted to automate the dry level, you click this, click add automation, and then you basically just, add it in like this. Do the curve, whatever you want, basically. Obviously, I don't want that, so I'm going to get rid of that now. Oops. Let's just make that fit. Sorry about that. So yeah, sorry about that. Had a bit of a program crash. But yeah, you can also see the automation curve here, and the great thing is that you can actually edit it in this little editor here, which is a really nice feature. It's kind of laid out similar to Ableton Live, I feel. So doing that for every layer. I did actually just copy and paste the curve by just, if we zoom out here, if you wanted to say, you just copy it like that, Control C, and then just go down here, and then you can open this up, and then you can just put remove curve, and you can actually paste it back in there. So that's how that's done, and it's a really nice way to keep things looping. The other thing that we've done is we've added these little destination markers in here that go to each little marker. It's like a transition to loop section, or transition to the swell section, and at the end of the swell you can see I've got all of them basically, and we're going to just automate these based on triggers or parameters or chance. So it'll be like there's a chance of a third that at the end of the swell ambient loop, it will go back to loop 1, and same chance for 2, and the same chance for the swell transition. And if it goes to the swell transition, it will go to the swell, basically, or it will loop once itself. And there's a whole ton of ways that this piece can be performed. And that's kind of the beauty of this adaptive music. It's very interactive. It's based on how the game is performing and how you're doing in the game, and it's a really nice way of kind of generating its own music. So I really kind of like that play that you have with the game in that sense. So it's a really nice way to experience music, in my opinion. And then just the outro at the end here to finish things off. When the piece finally ends, it will just play this little marimba, boom. So that is that, basically. If there's any other questions you have, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. Please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel. That would really help me out. And let me know if there's any other FMOD tips that you'd like to know about. I'd be happy to share them. And I'd also love to do more videos about FMOD and audio implementation in general if I can. Let me know if there's something that you'd like to watch. But yeah, it's been great doing this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Everyone, I hope you will have a Merry Christmas and whatever you're celebrating this time of year. And I hope everyone's keeping well and safe. Thanks again. Bye for now. See you next time.